He was a delegate. Then they unseated him. Then he won a special election. Then they tried to raid his office. All the authorities are trying to do is get Joe Morrissey off the ballot because they're afraid if he gets on the ballot, he might win. I think he's going to win. I predicted that. Joe trying to become a candidate to run in the June 9th primary in the 16th Senate District. He's challenging Delegate Joe Preston and incumbent Democratic State Senator Rosalind Dance. Now, he just got cleared of a felony indictment that got tossed out yesterday, so he's free of that. Joining us now, Joe Morrissey. Hey, Joe, great to have you with us.
Good morning, John. Good to be back with you.
Let's share with our audience, walk through this decision yesterday, the judge totally throwing out the 4-count felony indictment. By the way, Joe, this is the indictment that prompted the raid in your campaign office the day before the election when you were trying to identify your voters and get them out. The whole thing is really looking stinky to me. What say you?
Let's review. The 4 indictments come down the day before the election. The day before the election, 11 Henrico County officials, police come in, raid our office, take all of our computer, which had our get out the vote data, took all of the paperwork in front of the volunteers who were making GOTV calls and would not let them make calls, sent them outside, and would not give us the material back. So those are the 4 indictments. Now let's fast forward to yesterday. For the first time, we got to go into court, and my lawyer got to explain, here are the facts, here are the circumstances. My attorneys filed pleadings. The judge had a chance to review those pleadings, listen to the evidence, and then he dismissed all 4 indictments. Many people said that the timing of the indictments were very suspicious. That's not for me to say. I think folks can see right through this.
Look, Joe, we're not stupid, okay? So
right.
The indictment gets thrown out. So right now, I have to question the validity of the indictment to start with because that prompted the raid on your offices with your campaign workers tossed out in the road at right in the middle of the afternoon on the most critical day of that special election for your campaign. I mean, there's a lot. You would have to say there's a lot of coincidences that played into that, right?
Exactly. And I know some of the listening audience are saying right now, is John embellishing this when he says tossed out on the road? Let's be clear. 8 volunteers in there working, all had their cell phones, all had telephone spreadsheets in front of them. The police came in, took their phones, looked at their phones, ordered them outside. It was 28 degrees outside without the call data, could make no calls at all, came back inside, took all of the computers, all of the call sheets, and said, no, there's no embellishment. Literally told them to go outside in the cold. It was a very trying, frustrating time, but John, I really do have confidence in you stay the course, you never quit, you never give up, and then you're going to prevail. So now we're back at what happened this week.
Right.
So and then I was prevented from getting on the Democratic ballot back in January. They only allowed 50 people to vote, so I ran as an independent and won. Now, fast forward. I filed this week or last week 972 signatures. Lo and behold, for reasons that they have not explained, and we've demanded an explanation, tell me why you disqualified 750 of my signatures. I've been doing this for 20 years. I always file more than anybody else. I filed over 972. Tell me, they won't tell us why we didn't make it. So here's what we're doing, John. We're going to challenge why they struck those signatures. We're asking for an explanation. We sent a letter to the Democratic Party of Virginia. We're expecting, Paul Goldman tells me that they'll say, screw you, we don't have to give you an answer, and then we'll go to court for a recount. But you know what, John? There's always an ultimate plan B. And you know what that is. Run as an independent and let the voters decide.
Okay, now that would be plan B. But I want to get back to plan A. You submitted 970 signatures. Now, I talked to one of your campaign operatives yesterday on the phone, Michael. He told me that he had already identified about 25 signatures that were valid, but they didn't have the date. Now, is there a law in Virginia that says these can get thrown out if somebody does not put on the date?
No. Excellent question. Let's make sure that people understand what you're talking about. Somebody signs a signature and they put their name, signature, address, and then they put March 23rd. Then the person right below that puts their name and skips it, and then the person right below that puts the date. No, you can show by implication that that person signed it also on the March 23rd. So the answer is no, that lack of date does not disqualify you. So we will go in there and we will show, and here's the other thing that we'll do. We'll get an affidavit from that person, drive to their home, get an affidavit, and they will say, I signed the petition on March 23rd. There you go.
Okay, now, Joe Morrissey, we were also told by Michael that when we talked to him on the phone yesterday, and also by your lawyer, there was about 150 signatures that didn't even get reviewed by the Democratic Party because they said they were canvassed by somebody that a felony conviction. And in Virginia, if you have a felony conviction, which means you're not necessarily a registered voter, which means you can't be a canvasser, so they toss those out. Now I'm told by your team that, number one, that individual was not a convicted felon. Number two, even if they are, they can still get registered. And number three, they weren't registered. So why were 150 signatures just put in the garbage?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it was 2 pages, 24 signatures.
I'm sorry.
The 150 is another matter. 24 signatures, and they claim that the woman was convicted of a felony. Well, she has sworn that 35 years ago she was charged as a 28-year-old. She's now 63. She was charged with a felony and convicted of a misdemeanor. But here's the thing. They never called us. They never asked. They never inquired. So that is also an appealable issue. The other thing is this. We still had another 182 signatures that we couldn't deliver. You have to deliver them to the nominating committee chair. In this case, her name was Betty Washington. We couldn't even locate her on the last day. I had a last batch I brought into the Democratic Party. They agreed to accept those, but our campaign folks were down in Hopewell trying to find her. And how is she affiliated? She's a member of Rosalind Dan's campaign team. The week before, when we asked to get him pre-cleared, we brought him down to a lady. She said, no, I can't accept them for pre-clearance. Of course you can, and should have. She was a member of Rosalind Dan's legislative aid. I'm not a whiner, John. I don't do that, but the people demand fairness. We've even had many, many calls from folks that said, Joe, might not agree with some of your policies, but what has happened is not correct. It's not fair. Keep fighting.
Look, you have to keep fighting this because there's no entity that should keep a legitimate candidate with legitimate signatures from not qualifying for a spot on the ballot. This is an affront to the American way. This is why I'm so incensed over what has happened. Now, if you don't have the signatures, you don't have the signatures. But I've talked to enough people in your organization who has said that it is absolutely asinine to believe that you don't have 250 signatures when you got 970. And you get all these things where, one sheet is thrown out because somebody they thought was a felon. One other didn't get turned in. It goes on and on. They threw anything out that didn't have the date on it. I mean, I would venture to say this isn't happening every place else. So it really looks to me like an effort by those in power to deny your supporters an opportunity to vote for you in a Democratic primary. I think that's wrong. Get on the ballot and go out there, Roz Dance or Joe Preston, and win. And that's that. That's the system we have. Not keeping people off the ballot. This is outrageous, Joe.
The interesting thing, and what's embarrassing to a lot of Democrats, is that these party folks that are doing this are really sullying and tarnishing the Democratic brand. For the last decade, I have fought, and I said the Democratic Party is a party of inclusivity. We want to get more people engaged and more people involved. And here, they're doing decidedly the opposite and saying, we're not going to let you on there. And it's very arrogant. It should be very, very troubling to Democrats, Republicans, independents, libertarians that the Democratic Party is doing that. And you hit the nail on the head a second ago. You were spot on when you said the people that should be offended are the ones that can't vote for who they want. It's not so much me as it is those people that have a constitutional right to vote for the candidate of their choice. They are being denied that opportunity. So that's the real damage.
Look, there's no question, and I want to go to a separate Senate race that I think is equally as outrageous, and nobody's saying a word. This is what is really getting my blood up today, Joe. So bear with me. Sure. Senate District 19, Southwest Virginia, solidly Republican. No Democrat is going to win there. Sorry. Game over. Ralph Smith, longtime incumbent. Okay? Really great guy. Great senator. Okay? He has a 30-year-old legislative secretary, David Sutherland. Now, Ralph Smith decides to retire, doesn't tell anybody, doesn't tell Tommy, doesn't tell the caucus, tells nobody, doesn't leak it, right? The only person he tells is Sutherland, 30 years old, his only job that he's ever had, Smith, okay, his only job. Doesn't tell anybody. Then what he does is announces his retirement with 36 hours before a filing deadline, so nobody else can file. Then says if you want to file, it's going to be a canvass or firehouse primary, so you can't even they don't even have to file a declaration of candidacy, so they could keep this under the hat, and then they give people a day and a half to get 250 signatures to get on a ballot, and his aide already had them. Now, where's the outrage over that? That goes nowhere, right? That's just fine.
There should be.
It's outrageous.
Outrage and contempt about this. What happened is you are gaming the system.
Bingo.
The individual knew that he was not going to run, and instead of doing what everybody does normally and announce, I'm not running, he tried to handpick his successor by, you know that person who ran already had those 250 signatures collected.
That's right.
You know that. He didn't collect them in the last day. That was already done, therefore preventing anybody else who was desirous of getting on the ballot from doing so. But you know what, John? Here's why you should take some solace. The public ultimately gets it. They don't like it, and they will respond, and I wouldn't be surprised if there were independent challengers in that race.
Joe, society's political power brokers are scamming the system for their own gain. There is not a Republican, a Democrat, an independent, conservative, moderate, or liberal that should not be absolutely outraged over what is going on in Virginia in these two Senate races right now. Give the people a chance to decide. Joe, when you made the decision not to continue and run for your House of Delegates seat, you announced it in plenty of time. You had somebody that you backed. You had them to your law office. Anybody had ample time if they wanted to file for that. That's the right thing to do. But to scam the system, and what we've got now is basically this young man, David Sutherland, is going to be the senator. It's a scam seat. And so the people don't have a viable choice because political power brokers are taking it out of the hands of the people, and everybody, Joe, should be outraged over this.
Well, what makes you think, John, that they're not outraged? It takes a while to percolate down as to what happened, but people, they get it. They understand what happened. And you're right, when I announced that I was going to run, heck, I called up, David Lambert and Leonidas Young and Lamont Bagby, and I said, guys, I'm not going to run. You prepare to do whatever you want to do. And they all said, interesting, thanks, Joe. If you were going to run, we weren't going to run. But thanks for letting us know. And they all endeavored to. They all had weeks to get on the ballot. Don't be distressed about what happened in the 19th, because it's going to. When you try to game the system, you get caught and you're going to get bit.
At the end of the day, I don't want to get elected senator because I participated in a scam on the people. Personally, you know what? I might have my issues, but I think I'm better than that. And so this whole thing is outrageous. You know what? At the end of the day, Joe, if you don't have the signatures, you don't have the signatures. But if you have them, and I'm led to believe you most likely have 250 legitimate signatures out of 1,000, the fact that you have a handful of power brokers in the Democratic Party of Virginia that are trying to keep you off the ballot, people should be up in arms over this. I hope they are. I hope you prove it out. And I'm telling you, I'm going to predict again. You get on the ballot, you're going to win, Joe.
Thanks, John. It was always a pleasure talking to you. Let's stay in touch.
All right, Joe Morrissey. This is the John Fredericks Radio Network. Outrageous what is going on in both District 16 and District 19. Political power brokers deciding who's on the ballot, who candidates are. They don't care about the system. They don't care about the process. They care about their own, like it's their own fiefdom. These are your seats, not theirs. They serve at your pleasure, the whole bunch of them. I've had enough. This is the John Fredericks Radio Network. I'll be right back.